Well, all right. I don't know how that half hour went by so fast, but here we are. It's time for our very last panel of the day, where we're going to hear from our non-government organization and science partners. So I'll let Michael come on up and introduce his panel. And we're so excited to hear from everybody here. I hope everybody got a large amount of gratuitous calories over here. If you still need any more of those, please help yourself. So, all right, let's go ahead and kick it off. Thank you, Michael.
If we can have the panel members come on up, we'll give a sec for everyone to come up. And pick your favorite chair. Yeah, sure. Everyone can come on up and join the panel row. It gives folks a chance to get settled anyways while we're getting settled, so it's perfect. Well, we have a real powerhouse panel of real NGO and science partners here in Colorado that are leading the charge on some really exciting work. And one of the biggest things about the Partners Conference for me that I've always loved is hearing what all of you are doing and how we can connect with your work if we don't know about it, or how others are working with you. And I think a big part of this that I hear out of every one of these meetings are the connections we all make afterwards. And so getting a chance for all of our partners to kind of highlight what are their big success stories this year, what are they working on, and also kind of talking a little bit about how their work might interface with work CNHP is doing with all of you, with the statewide natural heritage survey and Codex and some of our other big initiatives. And I'm going to say Codex a few more times because I understand Matt Schultz is going to have to drink a beer every time I say the word. So, but with that, what I want to do is introduce our panelists. We have Emily Chavez from the Bird Conservancy of the Rockies. We have Michelle from Denver Botanic Gardens, Eric from Cattleman's down on the end down there, and we have Nanette from the Betty Ford Alpine Gardens we're really excited to have, and Drew Rayburn from the Nature Conservancy. And we're just going to ask them each to come up and give a short presentation, and then we kind of want to open it up to some questions I might have, but I also wanted to open up to all of you. Encourage you to think of questions about how your work might connect with these partners and how you might be able to collaborate with them just in the name of our partnership conference. So to get us started, we were going to originally go with you, Emily, first, if that's okay with you. Great.
Okay.
And the slides should be in order, ready to go, and your slide clicker is the green.
Okay, great. Let's see if I can figure out how to work this. Perfect. Hi, everybody. As Michael said, I'm Emily Chavez. I'm the Stewardship Director at Bird Conservancy of the Rockies. Honestly, a lot of what is in here has already been talked about today, so I might try to ad-lib a little bit for some additional stuff that you may not be aware of that Bird Conservancy is doing. So for those of you that don't know about Bird Conservancy of the Rockies is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to conserve birds and their habitat through an integrated approach of science, education, and stewardship. Some of the highlights in here are led by our science team. I am the stewardship director, so please do not ask me about any of the stats or methods because you'll have to talk to somebody else on that. So all of the work that Bird Conservancy does in our mission is really predicated on collaborations and partnerships. We really could not tackle this massive conservation challenge without the partners and leaning on the expertise and insights of those around us, like CNHP and many of the other organizations that are in the room. So I'm going to talk about 3 ways in which we're working really closely with CNHP, and then I'm going to give you an overview on some of the other projects that we have going on and some initiatives that are taking off. So first, I want to talk about building a strong conservation workforce. You already heard from many of the interns that went through the Seagull program at CNHP, and Bird Conservancy for the last couple years has been working really, really closely with CNHP to host interns and give them some experiences with ornithology and avian ecology that were missing from the program. And for many of you who have rose to the ranks of your careers and have figured out what it's like to be a conservation professional, you know that mentorship is really important, and it's very much like planting a seed and nurturing it. And our goal with the internship is really to take folks from education to on-the-job training to a talented workforce that's ready and prepared to take up the gauntlet for the next generation to solve these huge problems. So for the last couple years, we've been hosting interns. These were interns from last year. I don't know if they're in the room or if their friends are in the room, and I hope that if you know them, you tell them you saw them. But last year, we gave them a variety of experiences where they worked with our MODIS program to see what building a MODIS station is like so you can track bird movement. They did bird banding. They worked with our wetland habitat wildlife biologists to build beaver deceivers. And they got this really well-rounded experience through working with Bird Conservancy. This coming year will be our third year that we've hosted these interns. And I just kind of want to highlight some of the things that the folks have said about this. These are our two interns from last year, Maddie and Bailey. And I really pulled out these two quotes because I think this is really what the meat of these internships are. And, Maddie said she was not previously interested in jobs with birds or plants. And I think we got one for the botanists and the bird nerds out there, so I'm pretty excited about that. And Bailey feels like she's really grown in her confidence. And I think many of you know that getting those skills, getting that confidence to do this work, and just putting yourself out there makes a huge difference into retention in natural resources. This is not an easy field to make it in, and giving those skills and those, that confidence really early on can make or break the difference for having that talented workforce. So while we are nurturing budding scientists and conservation biologists, our very established research scientists are working on understanding how management impacts affect pollinators and birds and grasses throughout specifically the Great Plains. And while this work took place, that I'm going to talk about, took place mostly 2024 and 2025, this year is the International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralists. So it's really, thank you. So it's really important that we acknowledge the importance of grasslands in the state. We often think about the mountains and the alpine, and well, those are beautiful and lovely, and I'm all on board. We have this whole really important and fragile ecosystem that we need to be paying attention to and looking for deeper understandings. So, can you just tell me I'm taking too long? We worked with CNHP and USGS to look at the impacts of implementing the Conservation Reserve Program through eastern Colorado, the Panhandle of Oklahoma, and western Kansas. The CRP program, or Conservation Reserve Program, for those of you who are not familiar, is a program that helps take out marginal cropland out of production and put back into grasses. You can see that it's really concentrated on the plains area for the density, and this was our focal region right here. And the reason why we use the CRP program, thank you. The reason why we use the CRP program is because it's really important for, it's a huge program for private landowners. It's essential, one of the most important programs out there and widely adopted. So I'm gonna quickly just speed through some results. That's not important, that's just how we did it. Yeah, I'll ask those questions later. But one of the most important things that I want to call out here, this was our grassland surveys. So for anybody who says the plains are boring, we found 287 species of grasses and flowering plants during our survey area. So if they ever say that the grasslands are boring or don't have diversity, just give them that number and remind them that these are diversity spots. Butterflies, we got some of those. And here are some beautiful pictures of some of our top species for 2024. We did bee surveys as well. I do want to call out that there is within this habitat range an endangered bee species, and so that's highlighting the importance of understanding how management affects these, often forgotten users of our ecosystems. More data this is the DNA metabarcoding data that we did. We got a bunch of species, we put them in a blender, we identified over 320 species with our USGS partners, and please ignore those last two bullets, they were typos. In addition to that work that we're doing on the management programs, we work really closely. Our integrated monitoring and bird conservation region program is super important for getting robust and scientifically rigorous data. There's many different ways that we can collect data, and people have mentioned some scientific, some community science resources that we can use to collect this. But I do think that continuing to have these robust surveys are really, really important to ensuring that we have scientific rigor behind the information that we're gathering. And we give this data to Codex so we can make better management decisions. And finally, I have 30 seconds probably left, partners. Partners are so critical to everything that we do. We have some new budding initiatives that are going on. We have a new position, our Playa's outreach specialist over there next to our wildlife habitat biologist who works with NRCS. Our Playa's position is a partner with PLJV. We have our mobile working group that's coordinating partners again across multiple states and multiple countries in order to increase the coordination for mountain plover conservation. Everything that we do is predicated on these relationships and coordination for these species that move across massive ranges. Huge shout out to all of the people that we work with. Just a couple. This is not comprehensive, but it shows that it really does take a village to tackle modern conservation issues. And thank you guys so much for all the amazing work that you do.
One thing I'm noticing too, as Michelle, you can come on up, but it's a great segue because here's a bird person talking about plants and pollinators and thinking about Colorado's outdoor strategy. One of those 3 North Star goals is coordination and working together. And I think your talk was a perfect example of integrating that North Star goal of outdoor strategy. So thank you for that. And with that, Michelle.
All right. Which button? Green button.
The green button.
The big green button.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. All right. So I'm Michelle from the Denver Botanic Gardens, and our main mission is connecting people with plants. But what the way we connect people with plants from the Research and Conservation Department, where I'm from, is from 2 sides. One where we look at patterns of biodiversity, and one where we look at what drives those patterns, because we really need to understand why we see what we see in order to conserve. So I'm going to highlight a few of our projects that we do to conserve biodiversity. So I am one that works with our population monitoring, generally to gather the information about population growth rates, usually represented by the Greek symbol lambda, thus the lambda. I know. So I'm working to develop efficient field methods to estimate abundance and density of rare plant species and to study population trends. And accurate counts of populations are really needed for risk assessments like Endangered Species Act listing or delisting, IUCN red listing, or hitting targets of the Global Biodiversity Framework. And so as experts in our field, Denver Botanic Gardens really has an obligation to make data accessible, to work with partners to teach and develop efficient methods, make sure everyone has that capability of collecting this data, help CNHP make their data more applicable to global and national efforts to conserve biodiversity. And so, like many of the folks who have talked before me, we like to think of ourselves as the connectors. So we get support to do all of this from volunteers and from working with our state and federal partners to teach and test these methods to get them out there. Another big project that we work on and focus is alpine plant conservation. So we know climate change is disproportionately affecting alpine ecosystems. with rare alpine plants being some of the most at-risk species. Denver Botanic Gardens, at Denver Botanic Gardens, we're using our seed banking infrastructure and research experience to lead efforts on seed banking and research of rare alpine plants. Back in 2024, we received funding to advance the North American Botanic Garden Strategy for Alpine Plant Conservation, and that's a blueprint for developed by the Gardens and Betty Ford Alpine Gardens to safeguard alpine plants and habitats. To accomplish the strategy, we're working with collaborators to collect seed in alpine areas across North America. We just launched a alpine plant atlas to put that information out to the public about what's known about our rare alpine plants. And we're tracking the viability of seeds that are in our XC2 storage through germination testing and with our fancy new X-ray so that we can non-destructively check if seeds are filled, which is great fun. So a lot of our work at Denver Botanic Gardens is done across Colorado in all these fun and exciting areas. But some of the most important work we do is right in our own Denver backyard. So we've got the collections, the herbarium collections at DBG are at the front lines in documenting urban change that's due, how people are affecting our environments. So we are tracking new invasive species that are coming in and can track range extensions of species that is due to climate change. And urban floras chronicle how humans change their environment. And this Denver Urban Flora project that we're getting going will also help us identify some species that are tracked by CNHP right in Denver, which there are a few apparently. And by collaborating with volunteers and affiliate researchers and our horticulture colleagues, we can engage the greater community in using iNaturalist and ecoflora projects to document and educate the public about urban floras of Colorado. And then we have our ecological restoration projects. That's an integral approach to conserving biodiversity. And we work to improve wildlife habitat, to stabilize soils, reduce invasive species, and mitigate the negative impacts of climate change using native plant species. So we have over 15 years of experience working with an interdisciplinary team of ecologists, botanists, and horticulturists that can design, conduct, and advise on conservation projects from rare plant monitoring to large-scale ecosystem restoration. And we're expanding our restoration projects to include all phases of the process from native seed plant material production to testing large-scale national restoration efforts, and that includes leading a statewide planning effort to organize and support native plant materials production. And then finally, we all know we're facing a global biodiversity and climate crisis, and we're losing biodiversity at a faster rate than previously recorded. And so the Gardens sits at the nexus of public, of academic institutions and land managers, and we are uniquely positioned to help slow the decline and mitigate impacts of climate change by serving as connectors, communicators, and collaborators. And we are leading plant conservation strategies and partnerships on a state, a national, and a global scale through engagement and professional service with organizations like CNHP and CPW through our Rare Plant Symposium, where we're trying to collect the occurrence data, what are we as a group doing, what actions are we doing to conserve species, and then on a national level through Botanic Gardens Conservation International and our global strategy for plant conservation to not quite report on, but at least understand how we are hitting targets of the global strategy for plant conservation and the global biodiversity framework. And so by educating other gardens around the world, the public, elected officials and land managers about biodiversity loss and tools to help mitigate the threats and impacts, we can help document and slow the damage. So by engaging with the gardens, that helps halt biodiversity loss, but it also helps us collectively have a global impact on conservation, plant conservation.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to go ahead and invite Eric Glenn up next. He's from Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust and is going to share some of their most recent successes and efforts. And I understand you have a pretty exciting anniversary this year.
Last year.
Oh, 50.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Dave and team at CNHP for the incredible work you do. Eric Glenn, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust. If you don't know our work, I hope to introduce you to our work, and I hope to sort of change your mind in some cases about cattle and conservation, and have you think about how we can use conservation creatively to accomplish some of these goals. 24 years ago, it's hard for me to believe, 24 years ago I graduated from CSU in May, and 18 years now that I've been with Colorado Cattlemen's Ag Land Trust, which is also hard to believe. But what makes it even more hard to believe is I haven't had a bad day of work in 18 years. Had some bad half days, bad hours, but never a bad day. Partly because of great partners. Rick Knight's not here, but I bet a lot of you know Rick Knight. If you're ever having a bad day, call Rick Knight, and your day will immediately change into a good day. So that's my advice. If there's any students here or any professionals, Dr. Knight, incredible mentor and friend. Colorado losing more agricultural land than any other state in the country in the last 7 years. We cannot afford to continue to lead the country in the loss of agricultural land. Colorado Cattlemen's Ag Land Trust and land trusts across the state are working to confront that issue. I am proud to say that over the last 31 years, we've worked with more than 500 families across the state to conserve 840,000 acres of working agricultural land. But also with that comes the wildlife habitat, the water resources, and all the things that we love and that make Colorado unique and special. Put that in context, that's larger than the size of the state of Rhode Island, which we're pretty proud of. But there's more to do. We currently have 25 active projects across the state, a little more than 150,000 acres in the pipeline that we can conserve in the next couple of years. To do that, we use a variety of tools, but more than anything, we use partnerships and broad and diverse partnerships, which is one of the things that I want to highlight. And I want to highlight these partnerships by talking about 3 different projects. One of which closed in February. And I thought I saw David Augustine somewhere roaming around here. But about 3 years ago, David reached out to me and said, there is a property in Weld County that's in holding in the Central Plains Experimental Range. And we're concerned it's going to get developed. And can you help us with it? And I said, well, it's a little too small. And we really don't buy land. But maybe the Trust for Public Land could help. And so I reached out to our partners at TPL, and nothing really came about of this. And so it kind of sat there. It was on the market. It's 160 acres right in the middle of the experimental range, just to the north of the CSU center that's out there. Like a year after that, Chevron reached out to us and said, we'd like to partner with you to focus on really doing conservation for high priority habitat for pronghorn and mule deer. We said, great, we can help you do that. And so they invested about $3 million in a collaboration with CCALT. we were struggling finding projects put on the ground, and then I got to thinking, well, maybe we could buy this property up in Weld County and see if we can't do some good conservation. We can't buy property, so I reached back out to TPL. I said, I've got money, can you buy it, and then we'll put an easement on it, or we'll convey it to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. TPL bought it in July of last year. We were all set to transfer it to USDA. Obviously, with the things happening at the federal government, that didn't happen. So we immediately pivoted and we conveyed the property to Colorado Youth Outdoors. And then Colorado Youth Outdoors put a conservation easement on it. And so now that property is permanently protected. It's continued to be used in the grazing and management of CPR. And we're going to enable youth to get their first opportunity to engage in hunting on that property, which is a really neat project for us to complete. The second partnership is with the Department of Defense. We're working with DoD on a REPI project with F.E. Warren Air Force Base to protect the U.S.'s nuclear missile system that exists in Weld and Logan County to buffer those missile silo sites from development. The third is where I'm really excited. The Nottingham Ranch, a lot of us in Colorado that have been here for a long time know Nottingham Ranch in Eagle County, a little bit in Routt County. We are actively working on the conservation of that. That partnership is a huge collaboration of funders made possible because of CNHP's data that enabled us to make the case and the story about the importance, the biodiversity importance, the agriculture importance, the water importance of this property. This is a $30 million easement purchase, which will be one of the largest in the history of the state. We're hoping to have that completed this fall. It'll protect 7 miles of the Colorado River, over 160 CFS of water. We can't do these things without partnerships, without the collaboration of all of you. I also want to talk really quick about stewardship. So we hold 840,000 acres under conservation easement. Those are perpetual easements. We have a lot of conflicts. Last year, we engaged with a landowner to fight back on a condemnation of 18 acres of a power line that was going right through a black-footed ferret reintroduction site. Unfortunately, the power line got built, but we were able to achieve some significant wins for landowners and for conservation in that we confirmed through a court ruling that now utilities have to pay conservation values damages when taking property from a perpetual conservation easement. A significant win that was codified by that court ruling that we can all now use to better leverage protection for conserved properties. And again, how we were able to calculate those damages was using the Codex system. So the work that Michael and team have done to integrate the economic data that Andy Seidel and team have built has been incredibly useful. I want to close in saying we do this perpetual conservation easement. Historically, land trusts' long-term relationship with landowners has been through the administration of those easements, the enforcement, the monitoring. In 2021, Colorado Cattlemen started what we call the additive conservation program. Our goal now is to put more conservation projects on those conserved properties. To do that, we need great partnerships with Bird Conservancy, partnerships with CPW, partnerships with all of you in the room to find ways to build more conservation outcomes on these conserved properties. This last year, we also used that program to help provide financial support for landowners impacted by the elk and leaf fires. And so we see that being a key component of that program going forward, particularly with what we're seeing in terms of lack of water, lack of snowpack, and significant drought. So thank you. It's great to be with you, and appreciate your time.
Very nice. Thank you, Eric. And I just want to point out yet more cool coordination and collaboration. That first story Eric told I worked on a black-tailed prairie dog study with Dr. Anna Davidson and one of our former interns, Emily Balunk, and Emily was out there and she was seeing the loss of this habitat and brought it up actually in one of our research meetings with David Augustine and I, and here we are. So the Laramie Peak to Plains, Mountains Plains to Project would have lost a critical linkage out in the plains, and thanks to this coordinated collaboration that we're seeing, every superpower, every land trust, every NGO, every science partner's superpower seems to be collaboration, and that's true for CNHP too. It's how we can do so much is with all of you. But with that, we're ready for Betty Ford Gardens. So if you want to come on up and.
Hi there, I'm Nanette Kick. I'm the research scientist for Betty Ford Alpine Gardens, and I am also the co-chair for the newly formed International Union for the Conservation of Nature Alpine Plant Specialist Group. And how did our little gardens get there? Let me talk to you about that. It started with the strategy that Michelle was talking about that we worked out with Denver Botanic Gardens, which was North American and Botanic Garden focused. And part of that strategy was to build, we just wanted to know how many alpine plants there actually were in North America. And we wanted to get it on a database, and we were fortunate enough to get a grant from the IMLS to put this website together. And as Michelle just mentioned, it has just become live. It's called the North American Alpine Plant Conservation Atlas, and you can go on this website and now search for alpine plants from North America by species name, by G listing, the Nature Serve conservation listing, or by the IUCN red listing for these plants. And when we actually looked at the 3,735 plants that are now listed on that list, I also forgot, you can also search by map location if you want for the plants. But one of the things that you know about alpine plants is that they are located almost from pole to pole in isolated pockets all over the world. It's a very small part of the Earth's surface, but it's all over the Earth's surface. And so we wanted to talk to not only the people in North America, but where are the other alpine plants in the world? And so that's why we wanted to put this group together. And so we went through an extremely difficult process and finally got approved by the International Union, the IUCN, for a group that's just specializes in alpine plants from all over the world. And this organization, it basically contains every single conservation organization in the world. This is the worldwide organization, including like the World Wildlife Fund, Nature Conservancy, and Nature Serve is also part of the IUCN. One of the difficulties is that in North America, most of you are very familiar with the Nature Serve ranks for plants, but the rest of the world really focuses on the IUCN Red List. And although you can sort of compare them, they're not exactly the same. They use different ways to evaluate plants and their conservation status. And when we went into our new fancy website to look at the plants that are in North America, we found out that of the 3,700 plants, over 3,000 of them had actual Nature Serve rankings, but very few of them, less than 650, had red list rankings. And so that is a real problem because we want to be part of the rest of the world besides just being in North America. And so, gosh, we reached out to, we just found out Clark is also having this difficulty because he's looking at his wetland plants and they have Nature Serve rankings for the most part, but very few of them have any IUCN red listing. So we have a common problem that we're hoping that we can kind of figure something out, some way we can convert. And it's not like these things go together in the slightest bit. So it's going to be a little bit of a project. And I want to just talk to you about some of the other people in the world that I get to work with, which is pretty amazing. Like Megan's here from the USGS, and of course Emily, our conservation scientist. So she's helping coordinate everything with me in North America for our new little alpine specialist group. In Europe, we've got this great guy, Christian Rixson, and he is looking at snow levels all over the entire planet to watch and monitor how they're changing with some of his colleagues. In Iceland, we have three scientists, colleagues that are looking at the ferns that are there. And it's pretty interesting. At the Reykjavik Botanic Garden, they're trying to make spores reproduce and ex situ, which is pretty a difficult problem. That particular fern there only grows by one hot spring in one place in Iceland, and so kind of interesting. And in Patagonia, this is one of my favorite projects. Matthias Baranzelli is working with his scientists. They've gone and taken tissue from alpine plants all over Patagonia, figured out which ones have the most most genetic diversity, and figured out land that's conserved, to figure out where there would be refuges with plants that might be able to survive changing climate. It's a huge project, and it's pretty impressive. And here we have Vijay from India. Alpine plants have an incredible amount of phytochemicals in them because they are up there fighting UV radiation all the time. And those phytochemicals have been used by man for traditional medicines for centuries and centuries. And they're now analyzing those plants to figure out what those chemicals are for anti-cancer drugs and other things. In Australia, Susanna and her colleagues are working on documenting all of the snowfields that are disappearing in the alpine Alps of Australia. And in Papua New Guinea, this is Timothy, and he's climbed the highest mountains in Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea has the highest plant biodiversity of any place on the planet, according to Kew. So very interesting people that we get to work with. And some of you have also worked on Gloria. Harold Pauly is part of our specialist group, coordinating all of you people and all of the people all over the world. This is probably one of the best long-term databases for alpine plants worldwide. And we're hoping some of you may want to join. We're really thrilled that we found Clark and the CNHP, because I think we can really make a good partnership trying to figure out how we can get everything red listed so that the world knows about alpine plants. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's amazing the quality of world-class research we have going on in Colorado, and home to so many amazing organizations. But Drew from Colorado Nature Conservancy is going to give us an update.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, so my name is Drew Rayburn. I'm the Director of Conservation Science and Planning for the Nature Conservancy in Colorado. And I first want to acknowledge two of my colleagues who are here with me, Terry Schultz, if you'll raise your hand in the foreground here, and Harold Eister in the back. There may be more online. Hopefully I'm not missing too many more, but I think that's us today. And as everyone else has done, I'll give a little bit of program updates, and I'm really going to spend quite a bit of time at the end talking about our partnerships, because our work with CNHP goes back really to the beginning of CNHP. We've been involved for decades. It's one of our most valued partnerships. It's one of the most impactful partnerships we have, and the work's only expanding. So, clicker.
Where'd the clicker go? Oh, there you go.
Oh, cool.
Sorry.
Thank you. Hard to miss. Big green button. So yeah, I want to start with this. We're very fortunate that this is our 60th year in Colorado, and 75th year and globally, and these are big numbers, but we're in more than 80 countries at this point. I think we have something around 6,000 staff globally. We are a separate business unit here in Colorado, so we operate somewhat independently and still focus our work here in Colorado. But we are celebrating that year, and our mission is to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends. Even as the world changes rapidly around us, we remain committed to this mission, and we remain committed to all the partnerships and collaborations it takes to achieve it. And while everyone else was presenting, I was noting that 3 of the 4 other presenters we collaborate with actively have been and will probably hopefully continue to into the future. So the thing with TNC is we kind of focus on everything in Colorado. We work on really almost every major conservation topic in Colorado. So I'm going to give a very high-level set of updates. We continue to conduct direct land protection. We do purchase properties. We do partner with many organizations, including CCALT, on easements and the long-term trajectory of those properties. But we are purchasing and protecting large tracts of land in southeastern Colorado. A typical project for us is more than 10,000 acres in that landscape. These are beautiful prairie canyon lands where ranching is a core part of the landscape, and the landscape's history goes back, thousands of years earlier to tribal and indigenous cultures as well. We're also working on land protection in northwest Colorado in the Sagebrush Sea region. Up there, we're largely focused on working with our partners. We're not doing the direct land protection ourselves, but again, partnerships, collaborations are critical. The goal remains to protect high-priority, resilient, and connected lands and waters that are essential for people and nature to adapt to climate change. And the screenshot on the bottom is a snapshot of TNC's Resilient and Connected Network tool. I used to teach workshops on that, and now I don't because it's been so thoroughly integrated into CNHP's work with Codex, many of the statewide planning frameworks that I'll touch on. But now it's just one of the tools that are available alongside many of which you all have helped develop yourselves. Our forest and watershed work, there's a lot to say there. Wildfires, climate change, pine beetles, drinking water, snowpack, the list goes on, especially under climate change and what we're seeing this year. But we are pivoting to try to adapt to the changes in the federal enabling conditions because a lot of our work is geared towards partnering and collaborating with public land agencies. So that includes low-tech process-based restoration, workforce development for forest management. There's a very long list and a lot of partnerships that I won't go into that relate to that. We're all in on trying to tackle climate change alongside the biodiversity crisis. For us, climate resilience is a real concept. I've heard that it's sort of a hand-waving concept. It's just words that people use. It's not. For us, climate resilience is the combination of both climate mitigation and climate adaptation for people and nature. And we're working on that in a number of ways, including draft bills in the current legislative session that you could talk to Harold about. And I should say you could talk to Terry about some of our new land protection projects as well. So both of them have a lot of expertise in those areas. I'll also say a lot of our climate work is focused on renewable energy. How can we accelerate the renewable energy transition while avoiding impacts to conservation values and communities? We call it 3C, climate, conservation, and communities. Most of that is policy work, but there's more to it than that, as many of you know. We're thinking about transmission. We're thinking about brownfields, trying to steer development towards previously developed areas instead of greenfields. There's a lot of other policy engagements I could go into, but I'll just give one plug to one of the projects I'm privileged to work on, which is a wildlife crossing planning project in northwest Colorado. It's really interesting work, again, very collaborative, and I think that there is a bill that is either already being talked about publicly or will soon that relates to trying to find sustainable funding for wildlife crossings moving forward, and I would encourage you to take a close look at that and see if that's something you'd be interested in supporting. Last update slide. We are very, very privileged to have members of both federally recognized tribes on our board of directors. And we're very engaged in working with tribal nations as well as indigenous communities. Many people don't know that the greatest concentration of indigenous people in Colorado is actually in the Denver metro area, not on reservation land. So I won't go into details here, but building on a long history of working with the two federally recognized tribes on water projects, we're now expanding this work in a great many directions that includes cultural resource work on both our preserves and new land protection projects. And Terry and I would be happy to talk to you more about some of that work, which is being done in collaboration with the tribes themselves. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our urban conservation work in the Metro Denver area. It involves an outdoor regional partnership, Metro Denver Nature Alliance, and a lot of other projects in and around the city. And then I'll close the update section by just noting that we are focusing on how we can protect and steward our lands into the future. So climate resilient protection of or stewardship of protected lands is a real thing. And I'm happy to talk to you about some of our work at Carpenter Ranch Preserve and some other places where we're testing some of those strategies. So the first update or the first collaboration focus here is on the statewide natural heritage survey itself. When this idea was first floated, we were very supportive of it. We also committed, I'd say, a fairly minor amount of match considering the size of the overall funding pot. But we recognize that this survey is filling critical gaps in the biodiversity knowledge for the state. And now we've heard about filling some of the cultural resource gaps as well that you hopefully heard Jimra talk about this morning. So we're trying to help our relationships with landowners to get CNHP access to more of these properties. And we're also thinking about how we can overlap this work with some of our new land protection projects in Southeast Colorado. So 2 last slides to close. I'm not going to go through all of these details. You've heard a lot about these plans today. But a big part of how we collaborate with CNHP is thinking about our engagement on these different statewide planning efforts. These first 3 plans in particular, I will say, are pretty high standards for statewide conservation planning, and I've been really impressed by the way that these plans were put together, conceived, executed, and which are now being implemented. And I really like the web interface for the swap. I'm just a geek for that kind of stuff. It's really cool. It takes the plan off the shelf, puts it in a digital form where it can be used, and I'm impressed by that. And we're also involved in different regional partnership initiatives, some of which overlap with CNHP's work. And on the last slide, I'll just note that there's a lot of other examples we could give, especially after maybe a couple beers in the Ramstetter tonight, about how we've been working together and hope to continue to do so. We advocate strongly for Codex and COMAP as key resources for how we can all work together to accelerate both the pace and the scale of impactful conservation in Colorado. We're also very engaged with CNHP on different aspects of wetland conservation, some on the ground, some carbon, some policy. We really value the wetland expertise of CNHP. They are a go-to resource if you're thinking about any aspect of wetland conservation in Colorado. And I'll also say, and this will be my last point, I think, is that we do continue to contract with CNHP for doing those old school baseline resource assessments on the ground to understand what's out there on the lands that we have and the new lands that we're protecting. Okay, so I already jumped to your slide. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to all of our presenters. I think it's quite the powerhouse panel, and I think everyone on this panel has probably worked with each other at some point, and I wonder why we haven't worked more with Betty Ford than we have before, but it sounds like we're going to be getting an opportunity to really dig in. So with that, I have some questions, but I see we're kind of running a little low on time, and I want to make sure all of you get a chance to ask any questions. So I'd like to open it up to the floor first. Does anyone have any questions for our panelists, maybe about how you could collaborate with them, like I was asking you to think about, or any things that you wanted just to ask them about projects that they shared with us today? Okay, it's getting to be near the end of the day. Everyone's like, oh, I think I'm ready for the beer. Oh, we have a question. Dave has a question.
Mine is not in the spirit of what you asked us to ask. I have a rather technical question for Nanette. I am kind of inspired by Drew. You just got me thinking about the RCN and making me wonder. I was talking at lunch with Clark and Nanette about about the troubles with incongruency between the IUCN Red List ranks and the conservation status ranks of the NatureServe network, and wondering, and I learned that you need to have a trend signal to assign a Red List rank. Would it be possible for us to use things like the RCN or HCCVI, the Habitat Climate Change Vulnerability Index, to look at climate-induced change in habitats for species, and assign some kind of proxy red list rank to a species based on signals we're getting about its habitat without actually having the trend data that we have for almost no species.
I think this is something that Clark and I, and also I've talked to people actually on the red list in Cambridge, and there's other people that are IUCN red list trainers. I think we all just need to sit down together and look at our database. And, the CNHP has a great database of plants in Colorado. So, for us, I think what we'd like to do is start with a few of the more vulnerable plants and maybe look at the data that you have and work with the trainers to see what we can come up with. Because right now the databases are fairly incompatible. So it's going to be an issue. Maybe I think the red list should just take all of our stuff, just throw it onto the red list, and then let us work out the problems later. But I don't think they're going to let us do that.
Does anyone else in the audience have any questions for our panelists? All right. Well, I'm curious if any panelists would want to talk about, we've talked a lot about the Colorado's outdoor strategy, the HCCP, and the new SWAP today. And how is that informing your work on the ground? Is it giving you new resources? Has it pointed you in some new directions? Has it led to more collaboration? Does anyone have an example from one of those three kind of marquee projects we've been talking about today and how it's impacted your work? Drew?
Sure. I'll give you one example from the HCCP, which is, again, the Habitat Conservation and Connectivity Plan that CPW developed. And I will say, like many people in the room, we were very involved in the Colorado's outdoor strategy, which is a pretty high-level framing. So I'd say we're trying to align a lot of our work to the language in that plan. Mm-hmm. So that shows up across, I think, a lot of our work. And then the SWAP, of course, being one of the de facto biodiversity plans for the state of Colorado, is critically important, and we are asking our staff to become familiar with that plan, especially the species on the lands that they manage and that they're partnering around. So separate from that, the HCCP talks a lot about habitat connectivity. And we all know that under a future climate change and the other stressors that are happening in Colorado, the development that Eric talked about and others, we have to have our habitats connected for them to be resilient to future change. And it's not just for the big charismatic megafauna, right? It's for a lot of different types of wildlife, insects, plants, fish. So now we're watching the HCCP be implemented, and there are 4 priority watersheds, one in each region of the state of Colorado. And in the Northwest, the Upper Yampa watershed is the focal watershed. And I just got back from participating in the implementation meeting where a lot of the focus was on big game, large wildlife connectivity, and it got me thinking about our wildlife crossing project. And the point of this is that it helped me understand how something we're diving into fits into this larger framework, because these plans are being, connected together in a way that I can say to people that I work with, the idea of wildlife crossings isn't new or novel in Colorado, and here are some examples. And the HCCP shows some of this, some of the other work on wildlife crossings shows this as well, but I think the point is that trying to create connections between these plans helps us center our work and be able to understand our contributions to statewide priorities for ourselves, and also explain those contributions to our funders, to our partners, and other types of supporters. So I'll stop with that.
Great. Looks like Eric would like to compliment your point on that.
So I'm going to take it in a different direction, Michael, but my probably background's more in taking the work that CNHP does and then translating that into public policy at the state and federal level. And one of the things we're talking right now about the SWAP is National Wildlife Federation, in collaboration with another organization that I'm a part of called the Partnership of Rangeland Trusts, are working to try to take what Colorado has done with its transferable tax credit program and scale that up to a federal level. And one of the ideas is to make that federal tax credit related to focusing on swap species and giving Colorado Parks and Wildlife, in this case, the ability to administer a federal tax credit program similar to what we do with low-income housing tax credits to incentivize conservation related to species. And this would completely transform the way that we do conservation at a federal level and provide significant opportunities for states that don't have the tools and the resources that we have here in Colorado. We're blessed, I think, to have the most robust set of conservation incentives in the country. But we're using all these plans and programs to think about how we can do conservation in a better, more scalable, more resilient way, and make the programs more accessible to more landowners.
Great, thanks. And also it reminds me, Eric, that we probably need to update that story map now that we have a new 2025 swap. But one of that slide I gave you during our team update about telling your story with Codex, we found so many of the swap 2015 species, and that was really a highlight to show that, they're not just randomly throwing a dice on a board and being super opportunistic, but there is some prioritization that's happening, and we recognize triage is necessary in this current environment, and a lot of the work that CCLT's been, the other NGO partners have been able to do really speak to the priorities identified in the swap and outdoor strategy and other plans of that nature. But I think someone else wanted to add to that question.
Is this on? Oh yeah. I can just add a little bit to that, thinking about our biologists who are in the room. So we work really closely with CPW and the SWAP and the Habitat Connectivity Plan, and those really help us guide where we're going to put our resources, what types of conservation we're going to advocate for, what types of conservation or restoration we're going to try to put on the ground, being guided by those species of concern. And I think right now, when I think are all feeling the strain of resources feeling a little tighter than maybe they did a couple of years ago, having that information to really think about where is our biggest bang for our buck makes a massive difference in moving the needle forward. And I think these resources are huge tools for that.
That is music to my ears. I love that. Does anyone else have any questions after my last one that made you think of? Well, looking at the time, we're about 4 minutes left, so I just wanted to, rather than get too deep into another question, just thank all of our panelists, and I really encourage you to look at their own organizations and the great work they're doing, and also think about how you might be able to partner with them in your next great project. And you can be like our student Emma, who originally was just an intern and is now got her master's and is one of the best storytellers of nature I know, and had this idea halfway through her college career that maybe we could save this little piece of land that's getting blown up, and here's one of the leaders of conservation of Colorado who job done. So even if you're a student in the audience today, dream big and try to make that happen, and you never know, Eric Glenn might come to your rescue. Thank you very much. Great panel. Thank you all. Great job.
Thank you so much, everybody. What a fantastic panel. What a fantastic day. Oh my gosh. I am utterly blown away by this day. So glad that this has happened. Let me get my notes. I think I have some things I'm supposed to tell you. Don't want to miss the important things. Okay. No, I didn't take any notes to tell you. Okay. That's because I think it's all on the slides. First, I wanted to thank those of you who made this whole thing happen. And wanted to start off with the CSU Conference Services team. You guys absolutely rock. You make this meeting amazing every time. And so I'd love to get a round of applause for our conference team and the food service people. You guys took such amazing care of us today. Thank you so much. Thanks, Nate. Thanks also, Ben, sitting in the back. I just got to meet you this morning. Nate's in the back running the show. And of course, we have Jessica Veal, who's the lead at Conference Services, and Ashley Martin, who runs the AV and the tech. And Andrew Cundiff is in charge of the food, and Pete Andrews is in charge of the Ramskeller. So thank you, all of you all, for taking such great care of us. And next up is our implementation team. Julie and Aria have been here in the room all day. They absolutely killed it with planning this meeting and making this come off with perfection. I can't believe we got through 39 speakers, and here we are ending on time. I think Julie gets a tremendous amount of credit for that, and love to give you a round of applause, Julie. And the rest of our team, I know Aria is a student here at CSU, and she's amazing. She's such an amazing new part of our team at CNHP. And Yelena is a member of our team out based in Utah, and she helped us get this thing off the ground too, along with Jess and Rob. Thanks for keeping track of the time, keeping us on target. Brittany Morrow-Nordentoft, thank you so much for monitoring our online crowd, and I think that has gone so well this year. And of course, Lauren. Wait, what did you do, Lauren? Oh, you were doing check-in. Okay, sorry, I didn't hang out back there very much. Thank you, Lauren. We appreciate you very much. Okay, and lastly, I wanted to thank all of our wonderful speakers. Thanks for making this such a wonderful day. You did a fabulous job. I think you all deserve a round of applause for keeping us on track and sharing so many wonderful things today. So thank you, speakers. Okay, sorry, through most of the day I keep forgetting I can just look right here. So, okay. So wanted to thank you for attending today. We have those of you who spoke, of which there are quite a few of you, have a drink ticket in your name tag. You can give that to them down at the Ramskeller, and they'll give you a drink of your choice, whether it has alcohol in it or not. And the Ramskeller, you can get there by just going down these stairs right over here, all the way to the bottom floor, or you can go down the hall over here to those stairs. There's also elevators, lots of ways to get there. And I'm also noticing that our former dean in the Warner College of Natural Resources is here, Alonso Aguirre. I want to give him a round of applause for all he's done for CNHP. He recently got a promotion here at CSU, so he's not working with us as our dean, but he's working directly with us quite a bit on the Biodiversity Indicators program, and we're absolutely thrilled about where that's all headed. So thank you so much, Alonso. I didn't give you a drink ticket, but I want to get you one of those too for what you've done. So we had a crazy idea floated here to try to get a group photo of all of us. I'm going to blame Vinamra for that one, but I think it's kind of a good idea. So his idea was that we could gather with some of us up here on the stage and another row in front of the stage and probably get all of us in the photo. So is anybody game for giving that a try before we head down? Okay, well, if so, come on up. Let me make sure I didn't forget things. Oh, I know what I forgot. The slide's not advancing, but we're going to follow up with you. Recordings of this are going to be posted on our website. We're going to have a little survey that we're going to send out to you to ask you how we did and see if we can do better next time with your suggestions. So, thank you so much. Let's see if we can get a photo.
Should we change the background so there's not here?
Oh, maybe we... Hey, Ben, I can't get the slide to change. Okay, we got this. Michael, is this your phone? I have somebody's phone.
That's mine. I was just saying
Okay.
that's mine.
Oh, Aria's got it. Switch in here with you guys.